extra, then you pay for it. These universities cannot survive on what is being handed them. That is why the infrastructures are in the state of decay. That is why it's insufficient. But let's spread this out. Education is about knowledge first. Actually, we could accomplish everything that we want with just the teacher in the room, and even today they're no longer teachers, they're facilitators of learning. I'm guiding you and I'm saying, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Why don't you lead your research in this direction? You know, I already know what you're going to find because I've already been there. I've done the research, but I'm trying to help you, you know, so that more people will understand how that field of knowledge works. So it's, you know, schools without walls, basically. And then, because we're 178 million, over half of us, you know, want to get a kind of, and you asked about what do we do about everybody wanting to go to university and get a university education. Well, because if I don't get one, I am nobody. Well, if I go to...
I'm told I am nobody.
I'm sorry?
I'm told I am nobody.
Yes, I'm told I'm nobody. I get an OND or even an HND, and somebody tells me that I am a substandard citizen because they're going to pay me at level 7, and if you go to university, learning level maybe 8. Almost the same thing that I got from my polytechnic, and probably I can hands-on better than you, they put you on level 8. So we've got to put our money where our mouth is. If we say these other alternatives are important, then let's place an equal amount of importance in how we reward these areas.
The education system in Nigeria so far seems to create products with the victim mentality. So let's look at if we say, let's find a solution. What would you suggest to put into the curriculum now that would change the victim mentality
to a victor mentality?
From victim to victor.
To victor. We can do it in several ways. The first thing we need to do is to analyze the present mode of delivering education in Nigeria, to do a proper critique and refashion it in a way that would appeal to our minds and our intellect by building it up, and not for us just to be learning from the textbooks and re-delivering back in the exams hall. And that starts with the teachers themselves, otherwise called lecturers. Each of our lecturers must be willing, and I repeat again, must be willing to reappraise their own teaching method. A system where a teacher or a lecturer has not been up to date in his own course will not in any way help a student in becoming a first-class scholar. That implies that our tertiary institutions must first be inward-looking by generating ideas, by generating funds for self-sustainability, and at the same time being models of self-sustainability by imbibing in that in the students, in order for students to have this victor mentality. It's a good idea that the prof brought in, but in this system that idea isn't fully workable, because we have been made to know by our upbringing that if you don't have a first degree from a university, you are not fully human when it comes to education. At the same time, the learning environment at home must be able to create in a child the ability to excel in whatever situation of life you find yourself. Let me take you back to 1975, 1976, where in our primary schools in Lagos State, we have the morning shift and the evening shift. I happen to go to the evening shift. Not for any other reason. My parents want me to be at home in the morning because my elder brother will be out and my youngest cousin will be out to nursery and secondary school. So I stayed home till around 11:30, 12, and I'll leave for school at noon, get to my school before 12:30, and we start up till 5:36. But I noticed and I remember that on Wednesdays and Fridays, we have what we call practical sessions. We call them going to technical centers. There we have our blue aprons on, and we are told how to use our human skills in developing several things.
This was in primary school?
Yes. And I remember then that if this model has been followed through by the succeeding government of Latif Jakande, that will have been a way out for technical education in Nigeria. So several of us will lose our skills then, because when we go to secondary schools, we don't have a replica of this in the secondary schools we all went to. So there must be enabling policies.
But there were also technical secondary schools. I do remember.
No, I mean in primary school, you are both taught the Western type and the technical part. So you are skilled in both aspects of using your brain and applying your brain in the use of your hands. But now what we have is people just using their brains, not their hands. And that's why Nigeria is in need of great technicians, engineers, and people who will turn things around as an income generating avenue for this nation.
But isn't that happening already?
It's not.
Because I know a lot of women who are making clothes. Some are medical doctors who gave up medicine to come and make clothes because they have found that they're making more money from making clothes than from practicing medicine. Some are lawyers. They've given up all that to come and start making clothes.
Can we take the statistics? How many of them, per ratio, per percentage, have impacted this environment? The issue is that if we have 50% of our graduates from primary, secondary, and our tertiary institutions empowered in their brains and their hands, what we are saying today would not happen. Also, let me just come in and add this. When we say students are protesting, they are protesting because we are all made to believe that when we get to university, you have a good environment and community to live in. So you come, no water, no light, no educational infrastructures, classrooms are not good looking, then you will protest and say, this is not the picture
that was given.
At least I can compare my school in Nigeria, universities of Ibadan and Lagos, with Emory University at Atlanta, Georgia. They are miles apart.
Okay.
The learning environments are different.
At the time that I went, University of Ibadan was world class.
Okay.
So we say.
It was because we had exchange students from America, from Britain, in our universities.
That began to die in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s.
I think began from the 80s.
Okay. Mr. JOC, let's look at the solution going forward. How do we get our tertiary institutions out of this state?
In closing.
In closing.
Okay. Well, I'll still encourage, let me use the word encourage, our federal authorities, our state governments, running these universities to be more proactive in providing better funding so that the problem emanating from facility decay, lack of adequate facilities for research will be settled once and for all. If the situation is conducive for learning, we're going to have less protests leading to closures of institutions. I think while we're looking forward to a future where maybe like the Professor Awosika proposed to take education beyond the four walls of the university, we have to think of the present time. There are still people in institutions all over the country in need of immediate action to get a better living environment, a better research environment. And when there is a better environment, you're going to produce better students. You're going to enable the lecturers to give the students more opportunities to advance themselves.
Okay.
So beyond the federal authorities, beyond the government too, I would like to encourage both the university authorities and the students too to understand that whatever happens, they have their own future in their hands.
All right. Thank you.
There are so
Mr.
many
Jewusi,
ways
are
in
you a
which
professor?
students can protest.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Jewusi. Professor Woshika, someone tweeted here. Let me just read it out. The problem with academia is that scholastic articles are not open to the public. They are in journals for promotion purposes. And then another person tweeted, the other side of it is as those running government are the ones they used to be in the universities and tertiary institutions. But when they go into government, they forget where they are coming from.
Yeah.
So in closing, how do we get out of this?
I think it's what I just said. I mean, he rightly, I mean, Harvard, MIT, Yale, all of them, they've put all their curriculum on the internet. I use some of Stanford's material in my school. So put it out there. But if my students want a Stanford degree, they pay the boku money to go there. But if they want the knowledge and the content, they can get it.
It's free.
For free. So yes, open it up, open the journals, open knowledge. Let people have access. And then charge them for your brand, for your name. If they're coming, they know they're paying for it. Okay. Don't allow the few, I mean the rest of the populace to subsidize just a handful.
Okay.
Mr.
The way out is for institutions to look inward and to plan for a future. The way out is for the managers of our institutions, especially vice chancellors, to see themselves as business entrepreneurs who will go out to raise funds for our universities. It's unfortunate that our vice chancellors sit and wait for federal allocations. In my own view, they may be good managers on paper, but in reality, they are bad economic managers. In other climes, presidents of universities are the major fundraisers for their schools, the deans and the head of departments.
It depends on the laws guiding them, their
No,
regulations.
that's why I say we must look inwards, and they as well must see the need for them to be business drivers of their departments, of their faculties and their universities.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Shola Jewusi, author, joined us from our Abuja studio. Professor Abiola Woshika, an educationist, and Shola Makindipe were in our Lagos studio. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So, we'll be back in a moment. Please stay with us.